I get it. As teachers, we're frustrated that students are going home and completing their assignment in the matter of a few seconds using AI. So today, I'm going to show you the trick that you can use to make sure that the knowledge you want your students to have is actually up in their brain. Let's get started. When I was in college, I had a professor who would assign these readings. And when we showed up to class, he would go student by student and ask each of us to explain our portion of the reading. And we never knew what we would have to explain when we showed up to class, which means we really needed to understand everything we had to read. And let me tell you that this created a natural sense of fear in us to ensure that we showed up to class prepared. But it revealed a really powerful learning tool, which is this. If your students can't explain it, they don't know it. So let's take a look at verbal assessments, one of the favorite ways of breaking free from AI doing our assignments. The concept of a verbal assessment is pretty straightforward. Instead of asking your students to turn in a written list of the answers, you instead ask them to provide the answers verbally. Now there are a couple pitfalls of this assessment style, so let's walk through them, starting with the amount of time it takes in class. It's true that when you have to go student by student and ask for their verbal explanation, that it is going to act as a drain on time. But first of all, if our students are genuinely learning the information, then it might be worth it. And second, if we focus this practice on the most essential learning that is happening in the class, then it's definitely worth it. I'm not saying you have to do this for every single thing in your curriculum, but you should be doing it for the things that are absolutely essential to your curriculum. I've actually done this in my class, and let me tell you, when you ask students to verbally explain what they know, you quickly identify the students who actually did the work and engaged in productive struggle, and those who did not. Which is the whole point of assessments, to get to the heart of who knows what. One essential aspect of this particular learning method is to ask follow-up questions. And the reason you want to ask follow-up questions is so that you can engage their understanding of the material at a deeper level. But one bonus of this is it also allows you to differentiate between your different learners. If you have an exceptional learner, for example, you can save that particularly challenging question just for them, which then makes it so that class is not just a breeze, but pushes all of our learners in the right direction. One other thing to keep in mind is set clear expectations on whether you're grading speaking skills. You do not have to grade speaking skills each and every time you do this. In fact, for your students who have stage fright, it might be better if you don't. And I was a speech teacher for a decade. I believe that it is essential and needed for us to teach presentation skills to our students, and this assessment definitely gets them more comfortable speaking in front of others. All I'm saying is that when it's dealing with specific content, it doesn't necessarily require you to also give them a grade for speaking skills. And that brings us to our final tip of the day. Make sure you do not allow scripts. If your students are reading word for word, that means that their information is coming from a piece of paper or coming from a screen. But the way that this assessment is successful is making sure that the information comes from their brain. When I implemented this in my classroom, I told students that they were allowed to have 17 words on their note card, which ensured that they had a little bit of support to remember some of those difficult words, but ultimately, the majority of the information had to come from their brain. I'm Luke with Groovy Education, where we have trained over 250 schools on how to responsibly integrate AI into their classroom. If you want to hire us, links are in the description below. We also have links to our school community, where the first 1,000 educators get lifetime membership for free. And I would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button so you can get future tips on how to AI-proof your schoolwork, as well as hitting that like button so that other teachers can get this recommended in their feed. But until next time, see ya.